Mom texted, "We're skipping your son's birthday, trying to save money." I said, "It's okay," but a week later I saw their live stream. Giant party, gifts everywhere for my sister's kid's Christmas. My 5-year-old boy said softly, "They never come for me again." I just cut them off from payment. By 8 a.m. Dad was banging on my door yelling. He didn't cry, and that somehow made it worse. My son just sat there on the couch in his little dinosaur pajamas, quietly holding the birthday card he had made for Grandma and Grandpa. He'd even glued macaroni on the front in the shape of a heart. When I told him they weren't coming, he paused for a second like he didn't hear me right. Then he just nodded, got off the couch and went to play with his trucks. I watched him from the kitchen, trying not to let him see my face. I knew he felt it. I could see it in the way he stayed close to the doorway all morning, like he still believed they'd show up anyway. I kept telling him they probably got busy or maybe they'd call later. I even said we could video chat with them soon. He nodded again. No questions, no complaining. That's what hit me the hardest. He was already learning how to lower his expectations around them. And he was 5. My mom's text came in around 10 a.m. that morning. "I just finished blowing up the last balloon. Simple message. We're skipping this year. Trying to save money. Hope he understands. Love you." That was it. I stared at the screen, feeling this weird mix of embarrassment and anger wash over me. No call. No gift. No offer to stop by later. Just a text. It felt like something you'd send to cancel a dentist appointment, not your grandson's birthday. I told them it was okay. I typed back something short and polite. I didn't want to give them an excuse to say I was too sensitive again. I just wanted the day to go well for my boy. We still had cake and games and his little friends came over. He smiled through most of it. But every now and then he'd glance at the front window. The next week on Christmas Eve I wasn't even looking for anything. I was just scrolling on my phone while he was in the bath. Then I saw the notification. My sister had gone live. I tapped it without thinking. The video opened with my parents standing next to a huge Christmas tree, lights flashing, presents piled up underneath. The whole living room looked like a holiday commercial. There was music blasting, kids screaming in excitement, my mom laughing so loud I could hear it echoing off the phone speaker. My dad was passing out gifts with a Santa hat on. My sister's kids were opening electronics, bikes, gift cards, dolls, you name it. And the worst part was that everyone looked genuinely happy. Like there was no tension, no money problems, no reason to cancel anything. Like nothing was wrong at all. I watched the entire stream. Start to finish. Just sitting at the edge of my bed. He came out of the bathroom while it was still playing, wrapped in his towel. He climbed up next to me, shivering a little, and leaned on my arm. I paused the video, but not before he saw my mom holding up a huge present with his cousin's name on it. He didn't ask questions. He didn't look confused. He just whispered something I still hear at night sometimes. "They never come for me again." I didn't have anything to say. The next morning, while he was still asleep, I got up early, logged into the old shared account I still had with my parents, and quietly moved every cent to a separate account I opened that same morning. I had set that account up years ago to help them when Dad was between jobs. They never added anything to it. Just took. After the transfer cleared, I closed the account. Gone. Pling. Then I sat at the kitchen table drinking my coffee, staring at the wall and waiting, because I knew it was only a matter of time. At exactly 8:03 a.m. the day after Christmas, the front door rattled like someone was trying to rip it off the hinges. It was my dad. And he wasn't knocking. He was yelling my name like I owed him something. He didn't knock. He banged like it was an emergency. It was the day after Christmas, just after 8 in the morning. I had just poured my coffee. My son was still in his pajamas, playing quietly with the toy plane we got him, the one I wrapped myself after staying up half the night. I opened the door and there he was, my dad, red in the face, eyes wide like I'd just stolen something from him. He barely stepped over the threshold before snapping, "Why'd you cancel the account?" No good morning. No how's your son. Nothing in his hands. No card, no gift, not even a leftover candy cane from the mountain of Christmas chaos I saw them hosting the night before. And I watched him. He didn't even glance at the little boy standing behind me, peeking from the hallway. That's when I knew. None of this was a misunderstanding. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was exactly what it looked like. I didn't answer right away. He didn't wait for one either. He launched into a whole speech about how I had no right to close that account. How I was messing with family stability, and how I was being dramatic over some birthday. He said it like that, some birthday, and I just stood there not even surprised anymore. I reminded him they told me they had no money, that they said they couldn't come, couldn't do anything. He shrugged and said that was before. Then added that Christmas was different. When I asked why, he said, "Because your sister invited everyone, it was already planned." So I asked, "Was there any moment, just one, where you thought about him? About the kid who waited for you on his birthday? Who made you a card? He looked at me like I was being ridiculous. You could have come with him, he said. You chose not to. I didn't even bother explaining. I didn't say, you didn't invite us. I didn't say, he watched the whole party on a live stream and didn't even cry. I just looked at my father, a man who once carried me on his shoulders when I was small, and saw a stranger. So I told him he should go. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just shook his head, muttered something about how I'd changed, and walked out. As he slammed the door behind him, my son walked over and asked if Grandpa forgot his Christmas card. He had made one the day before. Drew a snowman with glitter glue and stars, even signed his name with the big crooked letters he was so proud of. I told him maybe Grandpa was in a hurry. Then I took the card and slipped it into my desk drawer. It's still there. A few days passed. The house was quiet. No more surprises. I thought maybe that was it, the final fracture. Maybe they'd go back to their bubble and I'd stay in mine. But on December 28th, just as I was starting to feel steady again, a message came through from my mom. We're having a small family dinner tomorrow. Just us and your brother's family, your sister and the kids. Would love for you and the little guy to come. Feels like time to be together again. There was a half step toward peace. She mentioned my son. She said family. And even though I knew better, something inside me softened for a moment. I don't know what I expected. Maybe an apology, maybe even just a small gift for him or a genuine hug. I went out that afternoon and picked up simple presents for all of them. Just something thoughtful. A book my dad once mentioned, a candle my mom liked, a new scarf for my sister. Nothing flashy. I just didn't want to show up empty-handed. When we arrived on December 29th, I had gifts in one hand and my son's tiny fingers in the other. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew. They didn't invite me to make things right. They invited me to put me in my place. I walked in carrying gifts I'd carefully picked out the night before, thinking maybe they were trying to start over. Maybe they'd finally decided to be part of our lives again. My son was holding my hand tightly, wearing the sweater my mom used to say made him look like a little professor. I told him they'd be happy to see us. I actually believed it, or maybe I just wanted to. But the second I stepped into the house, I knew I'd made a mistake. The table was already set, full place settings, food steaming in the center, glasses poured. Every chair taken. There wasn't even a space cleared for us. My brother and his wife were seated comfortably at one end with their 3 kids, all dressed like they'd just come from a family photo shoot. My sister's kids were sprawled across the other side, loud and giddy, already halfway through their plates. My parents were at their usual spots. And no one looked up when we entered. My mom walked over like we just dropped by uninvited. "Oh," she said as if surprised to see us. "You made it." I held out the bag with their gifts. She took it with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, set it on the counter behind her and didn't even peek inside. "No thank you." No reaction at all. I glanced around for a place to sit, but there were no extra chairs. Not for me. Not for my son. After a long pause, my dad dragged an old wooden stool from the corner and placed it awkwardly near the end of the table. Not with the other kids, not near any adults. Just stuck at the edge like we didn't belong anywhere. I helped my son climb up onto the stool and tried to make a joke out of it, but he looked confused. I could tell he was trying not to be upset. I stood behind him because there was nowhere else to go. No one moved over. No one offered a spot. They started eating like we weren't even there. Small talk bounced around the table. School awards, work gossip, plans for New Year's. My mom bragged about how my brother's kids had all made the honor roll. My sister talked about how they were thinking of getting a puppy. Then someone mentioned how expensive everything was getting lately, and my mom laughed and said, "Thank God for family. We all take care of each other." And then she turned to me. "And maybe your little one will get on the honor roll next year too," she said, cutting a piece of ham. "If you work with him a bit more." The table chuckled. It wasn't even malicious. That was the worst part. It was casual, offhand, like they were just brushing crumbs off the table. I looked down at my son. He was staring at his plate, silent. I leaned down and asked if he wanted to leave. He shook his head. I think he was still hoping someone might remember him, might give him something. But they didn't. Instead, my dad suddenly shifted the conversation and looked at me. "Heard you're buying a house," he said, reaching for the gravy. "That's smart. Just make sure it's got enough rooms." Asked why. He looked at my mom, then back at me like it was obvious. "Well, your brother's family is crammed in that tiny rental, and now they've got a baby on the way. Your sister's apartment barely fits them as it is. We figured since you're in a good place financially, maybe you could help out. We were thinking 4 bedrooms minimum, maybe 5. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. My mom jumped in right away. "It just makes sense, honey. You're doing well. You've got the resources. Why not help everyone? We're a family." I said, "So, You want me to buy a house big enough for everyone else to live in? She nodded. It's not about living together permanently. Just until things get easier for them. Then my dad added, and let's be honest, you wouldn't even have this career if we hadn't helped you when you were younger. So in a way, your success is a shared success. My sister smiled and looked down at her wine. My brother didn't say anything. I looked at my son still sitting alone on that stool and felt my chest tighten. Then came the final blow. My mom looked at me with that tilted smile she uses when she's about to say something cutting. You'd probably be a lot happier and a lot less cold if you were a little more generous, sweetheart. Her Majesty wouldn't have to act so distant all the time. I stared at her for a moment. Not angry, just stunned. Then I smiled and said, shoot, I left the kettle on at home. We should head out. My son didn't argue. He slid off the stool, picked up the picture he'd drawn for Grandma and walked toward the door. No one stopped us. No one even said goodbye. On the drive home he asked why we had to leave early. I told him we had a dessert waiting at home, something special. He asked what it was. I said it was a surprise. When he went to bed that night, I took the picture he'd drawn, a Christmas tree with all of our names on it, and placed it in the drawer with the card he made for their missed birthday visit. That night I lay in bed and replayed every second of that dinner. And that's when I realized it wasn't that they forgot about us. It was that they never saw us as part of the family in the first place. The silence after that dinner was louder than anything they said. For the next few days I didn't hear a word from them. No follow-up. No text asking if we got home okay. Not even a message from my sister or brother. It was like we'd vanished, and they didn't notice or care. I kept myself busy. I took my son to the winter lights downtown. We made cocoa at home and built a cardboard rocket ship in the living room. I told myself I was done. No more hoping, no more giving chances. That dinner was the final answer to a question I'd been asking myself for years. But on January 3rd it started again. My mom called, then texted, then called again. She said we should talk, that they wanted to clear the air and start fresh. I ignored it. The next day she sent a voice note about family needing each other, how the holidays were stressful for everyone. I deleted it without listening all the way through. Then my dad messaged me a photo of an old bookshelf from our childhood home, the one I used to keep my books on. He wrote, "Found this in the garage. Thought your son might want it for his new room." It was manipulative. He knew exactly what he was doing. Against every part of my better judgment, I agreed to one last visit. I told them I'd stop by that weekend just to talk. Nothing more. I didn't tell my son we were going. I didn't want him to get his hopes up. When we arrived, my aunt and uncle were there too, my mom's younger sister and her husband. That surprised me. We rarely saw them unless someone was sick or dying. My aunt hugged me a little longer than usual, looked me in the eye and said, "I've been hearing things. Just wanted to see for myself." That was the first moment I thought maybe this wasn't going to go how my parents had planned. We sat in the living room. My son went to play with the dog. My dad brought out coffee like this was a normal day. My mom started with something rehearsed, something about misunderstandings and stress and how I took things the wrong way. I didn't interrupt. She said she was hurt that I thought they didn't love my son. That they do very much, they just have limited time and energy, now that the other grandkids are getting older and need more attention. I think she expected me to nod, to cry, to say, "I get it now." Instead I looked at her and asked, "When was the last time you said his name out loud?" She blinked, thrown. My aunt looked between us. My dad jumped in, said I was twisting everything. Said I was creating drama and acting entitled. Said I was punishing them because I was still jealous of how they helped my siblings more. That's when my aunt put her cup down. Hard. She turned to my mom and said, "You told me you skipped the boy's birthday because you didn't have money. Then you hosted a Christmas party with 3 tables of food and a bouncy house in the backyard. What was that? A clearance sale?" My mom opened her mouth, but my aunt didn't let her speak. She went on. "You've been telling everyone that Linda's cold and selfish. That she won't share. But I've seen the bank transfers. I know who's paid your taxes the last 3 years. I know who helped with the car repair you told everyone your son-in-law covered. Don't sit there and act like you've been abandoned." My uncle nodded quietly. He didn't say much, but he didn't look surprised either. My mom went quiet. My dad just looked away. For the first time in that house I didn't feel like the crazy one. I didn't feel like the overreacting daughter. Felt understood. After we left, my aunt sent me a short message. "You did everything you could. Stop trying to fix people who don't think they're broken." Later that night I found my son lying on the rug with the dog. He looked up at me and said, "Did they give me a present this time?" I said, "No, baby. They didn't." He thought for a second, then said, "Maybe they just don't know how." Caught me off guard. Because somehow he managed to give them more grace than they ever gave him. And in that moment I realized, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. It started with another text from my mom. Then a second one. Then a third. The first was almost sweet. Something vague about wanting to talk when things settle down. The next one took a more familiar tone, accusing me of turning people against them. The third was nearly comical. She said they didn't feel comfortable around me anymore, but hoped I would still let them see the boy. They couldn't even say his name. Not once. I didn't respond. I was done explaining myself to people who only ever heard what they wanted to hear. But they kept trying, and on January 8th the angle shifted again. I was at work when I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I let it go. An hour later, a second call. Then a third. Finally, I listened. It was a woman, professional voice, overly cheery. She introduced herself as a real estate consultant working with my parents. She said she'd been told I was in the market for a property, and that my father had looped me in on a potential family investment. A multi-use dwelling in upstate New York. 5 bedrooms with an attached in-law suite. Perfect for extended family living arrangements. I sat at my desk staring at the wall. I listened to the message again. Then again. He had given my name, my number, to a realtor. Without telling me. He had told a stranger I was buying a house for all of them. That night, I picked up my son from daycare, took him out for ice cream, and said nothing. He was happy. Talking about space aliens and dinosaurs. I watched him and thought they could have had this. They could have been part of this. But they chose a different story. I waited until the next morning, then called my aunt. She didn't say hello, just sighed when she heard my voice and said, "What did they do now?" I told her about the realtor. The plan. The 5-bedroom house I apparently didn't know I was purchasing. She went quiet for a few seconds, then said, "They've been telling people for months that you were finally stepping up. That you were going to do the right thing." I asked her what the right thing even meant. She said, "Pay for everything and keep quiet about it." That same afternoon, I got in my car and drove straight to their house. No warning. I didn't want to give them time to prepare some twisted explanation. When I pulled up, my dad was on the porch sweeping. He didn't look surprised to see me. He just leaned the broom against the rail and opened the door. My mom was in the kitchen. Always the kitchen. Always pretending to be busy. I didn't sit down. I didn't ask how they were. I went straight to the point. I got a call from a realtor. My dad shrugged. We were trying to get ahead of things. If you're going to buy something anyway, it might as well make sense for everyone. My mom didn't even look up. She just said, "It's not like we're asking you to do it alone. Everyone would pitch in." I asked, "Everyone like who?" She didn't answer. I told them I knew about the things they'd been saying, to my aunt, to people at church, even to some of my old friends. That I was finally paying my dues. That I was grateful enough now to help the whole family. My dad said something about how he gave up a promotion once because I was sick as a child. My mom chimed in with how they sacrificed everything to get us through tough times. And then she said with complete seriousness, "You're lucky we're still here." I stared at her, waiting for it to turn into a joke. It didn't. I looked at my dad and said, "You didn't show up for your grandson's 5th birthday. You didn't call on Christmas. You didn't even pretend to care. But you planned out a house, a whole life with my money. And the only time you said his name was when it meant you could benefit from it." Neither of them said a word. So I said the thing I had rehearsed in my head 100 times but never thought I'd actually say. "I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not your plan B. I'm not your guilt-ridden daughter who sends money out of habit and hopes for approval that's never coming. You've made it clear what I am to you. A resource. A bank account. And I'm done." Still silence. I turned to leave, but before I opened the door I added, "And don't ever tell anyone I abandoned you." I didn't walk away, I was pushed. I closed the door behind me. The next day I shut down every lingering connection. Removed my name from anything we shared. Cancelled auto payments. Blocked numbers. Cleared old messages. There was no drama, no screaming. Just silence. And peace. That night I tucked my son into bed. He asked if we were going to see Grandma and Grandpa soon. I said no. He asked why. I told him sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense. That some people only love in the way they know how, and that sometimes that love isn't enough. He looked confused for a second, then nodded. "Can we still go see the dinosaurs at the museum this weekend?" I smiled. "Yeah. We'll do that." And we did. A week into the new year their silence finally arrived. Not as an apology, not as understanding, just nothing. No more calls. No more guilt-laced messages. No more twisted explanations. They stopped pretending. And for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. I spent the next few days pouring myself into things that mattered. Reading to my son, fixing up the little reading corner he loved, researching houses again, this time with only our needs in mind. I found myself looking at listings with real excitement instead of pressure. 2 bedrooms, big yard, space for a dog someday. No guest suites. No family compound. Just something small and ours. One night as I tucked him in, my son asked me out of nowhere if his cousins were getting more Christmas gifts than him because they were better kids. I froze. He didn't ask it with bitterness, just quiet curiosity like he was working through a math problem. I told him no. I told him some people get treated better because others choose to ignore what's fair, and that has nothing to do with being better or worse. It's about how grown-ups make their choices. He nodded thoughtful, then asked if we could do our own Christmas again next year, just the 2 of us with pancakes and spaceship wrapping paper. I told him yes. I told him we'd start our own traditions. He smiled and fell asleep fast that night. A few days later, I heard from my aunt again. She invited us over for dinner, just her husband, and us. She didn't say anything heavy. She just said she missed him, that she thought he deserved to feel part of a family. We went. It was quiet, cozy, nothing grand. He had a small gift waiting for him, a dinosaur puzzle. Nothing expensive, but she knew he loved dinosaurs. He beamed. My uncle helped him put the puzzle together after dinner while my aunt and I sat in the kitchen. No drama. Just warmth. I didn't know I needed it until it was there. She told me she wasn't proud of how long she stayed quiet about my parents. That for years she thought maybe it wasn't her place to get involved. I told her I didn't hold it against her. What mattered was now. What mattered was that someone had seen me, really seen me, and stood up. Later that night, driving home, I passed by a billboard advertising a luxury vacation resort in Florida. Beaches, family packages, togetherness. The whole thing. And I remembered something that almost made me laugh. In November, the same month my parents said they were tight on money and couldn't do birthdays this year, my mom had accidentally posted on Facebook instead of just sending it to my sister. It was a photo of a vacation package. A screenshot of flights. Disney World in February. Tickets for 7. My brother's family. My parents. Not us. They had been planning that the whole time. I sat with that for a long moment, then deleted the memory just as quickly as it had come. Because what was the point? They had told me who they were 1,000 times. I had just finally listened. Now I focus on what I do have. A bright, curious little boy who still believes in people, in pancakes for dinner, in wrapping paper covered in stars. And I remind myself daily that he deserves to be surrounded by love that shows up. Not just when it's convenient, not when it's public, but always. We might be a small family, but we're whole. And that's more than I ever had growing up.